You think of someone you haven't seen in years, not for any reason, just a passing thought that appears and disappears. Later that same day, their name shows up somewhere you weren't expecting, just enough to feel slightly out of place. You notice it, but only for a moment, and then you move on. It feels like nothing. But something about the timing stays with you longer than it should. Then it happens again, but differently. You hesitate before making a decision, and something interrupts just as you were about to act. A delay, a message, a small shift that changes what happens next. You could call it chance, and it would make sense. Each moment stands on its own, explainable, ordinary. But when you place them next to each other, something begins to repeat, not in the details, but in the way they arrive. There are moments that feel slightly ahead of you, as if they were already moving before you stepped into them. You enter a conversation and it unfolds in a way that feels familiar before it finishes. You look for something, and it appears in a place you weren't planning to look. You change direction without knowing why, and later it feels like the only direction that would have worked. None of it stands out on its own, but together they form a quiet pattern that doesn't quite fit into randomness. At first, you don't question it. It's easier not to. The mind is good at smoothing things out, at turning something unusual into something normal. You tell yourself it's coincidence or timing or just the way things happen sometimes. And for a while, that explanation holds, until the same kind of moment returns again, with the same quiet precision, just in a different form. The pattern is not loud. It doesn't repeat in obvious ways. It shifts, adapts, hides itself inside ordinary situations. That's what makes it easy to miss. It doesn't ask for attention, it only becomes visible if you give it attention. And once you do, it begins to appear more often, not because it wasn't there before, but because you are now looking in the direction where it happens. There is something strange about the timing of these moments, not the fact that they happen, but how they happen. They arrive at points where something could have gone differently. A conversation that could have been missed. A meeting that almost didn't happen. A delay that changes the entire sequence of what follows. The precision is subtle, but consistent. Not perfect, just exact enough to feel intentional. You don't see anything controlling it. There is no visible system, no structure you can point to. But the absence of a visible structure doesn't remove the feeling that something is structured. It only makes it harder to describe. It's not in the events themselves, but in the way they connect. Not directly, not logically, but through timing, through sequence, through the way one thing arrives just before another. Sometimes it feels like the moment is already complete before you experience it. As if what you are seeing is not the beginning, but the surface of something that has already formed. You don't watch it being created. You step into it after it has already taken shape. That's why it feels familiar, even when it is new. Not because you've seen it before, but because something in you was already aligned with it. The more you notice this, the more it appears in smaller details. Not in dramatic events, but in quiet adjustments. The way a conversation turns. The way a person enters your life at a specific time and leaves just as precisely. The way certain paths open without effort while others never fully form. It doesn't feel forced. It feels arranged in a way that is too subtle to prove, but too consistent to ignore. And slowly the question changes. It is no longer about whether these moments are random. It becomes something else entirely. Something about what connects them before they appear. Something about how timing can carry a kind of structure that is not visible, but still present. Because if these moments are connected, the connection does not begin when you notice it. It begins earlier. And what you experience as coincidence may only be the point where something that was already forming finally becomes visible.